Sawadee and welcome to another episode here for the Funky Pod and for Media Prof Reacts to AI again and again and again and again. It feels like we can't escape the claws of AI gripping us or grabbing us closer and tighter. At least from what we hear everywhere, it seems like everyone's afraid of AI and it's a scary time to be alive and whatnot. And if you listen to or watch my previous videos or listen to my previous podcasts where I react to AI, you probably know that I totally disagree with this. So yes, it is interesting times. Yes, it can be scary at times. And I did go into great detail in my last Academic Corner podcast where I talk about all things academics, academia, and so on in regards to AI. So if you're interested in this, what I think about like AI impact on university and education and so on, check out my Academic Corner podcast. But on like a larger scale, right? So my background is in digital marketing, now communication studies and whatnot. So if I not only look at higher education, but like on marketing, work as a whole, I'm still not scared. Will it replace people? Yes. And yet it sucks, which is true. So yeah. So I'm not sure if it's true or not. On the Rogan podcast, I don't know if it was like serious or if they were joking with Saga and Jetty and Crystal Ball. They said that BuzzFeed laid off lots of writers. But then again, if no one should be reading BuzzFeed. Let's be honest. If your whole business model is about like writing bland, boring, formulaic, like, oh my God, you won't believe what happened, posts, then yeah, AI can do that. You teach it like the outline, how a post should look like, and it's gonna spit out 5,000 of those same posts within like a minute. No problem. But should we be worried about this? Wouldn't it be if... I'm struggling because while I say that, AI, I mean, if it studies terrible blog posts, it can also study good blog posts, obviously, and then try to emulate those, right? But it will always be like an emulation of it, right? It will take time until it really, really hits your voice, for example. And I think that's where you will have to set yourself apart, right? How do I stand out with my writing? How do I not be a bland writer? How do I add my own voice, my own opinion, and so on to it? And I think that's just the important part there to make sure that AI won't replace your work, won't replace you, won't replace us. And I mean, in education, I'm adjusting, I never really had standardized tests because I think they're stupid, but I do encourage my students to use AI if they want to, and just make sure that I don't ask them questions, or I don't grade them on stuff that an AI could do. Because why would I be mad at them for using tools that are out there that they can use in their everyday life, that they will be able to use when they work? Why would I be mad at them for using them? They should learn how to use those tools while they're at uni so that they are great at using them once they leave uni. So no problem at that. But hey, I don't want to talk too much about my work and about uni, but more like about like the global general aspect of it, right? So see, I'm torn because I think it's super interesting where AI comes from, and Lex Friedman had like an interesting post that I not necessarily agree with. He's like, the humans are APIs for AI. AI is API for like programming, and for this program for Python, and Python is for C# and whatever. And this is he then narrowed it down to like how it all relates to physics, and physics is the API to the universe or whatever. So typical Lex Friedman thing, like semi-smart, there's some good stuff in there, but then it's also wannabe philosophy in there. And I just don't think that Lex Friedman is like a philosopher, but he doesn't say that he's one. So I mean, not throwing hate to Lex. Like, yeah, I think Lex is awesome. That's why I follow him. But like, it has some grounds to it, right? And that's why I also said we shouldn't be afraid of AI, because it is somewhat just the next step. And I think on Rogan, I also discussed it, that they said like, yeah, the developers of OpenAI, they were surprised at how big it became how fast and how big. Because for them, for the developers, it was just the logical next step. It was nothing like, oh my God, awesome. It was just like, well, we've been doing this for 20 years now. So the next step is just simply to chat with it. It's like no big deal. But the public who hasn't been exposed to AI for basically forever, they're all freaking out. It's the same thing now when I talk with my colleagues. Lots of them are freaking out, like, oh my God, are we going to get replaced? And so on, right? For me, like I've been working with AI tools forever, like thanks to digital marketing and so on. Like I've been looking into AI writers and like I know since I was a teenager. I mean, back then Yahoo Pipes would scrape the internet. You would scrape the internet, and then you would create like your own pipelines. Then like scrape content from here, put it together, publish there. So that's been kind of like an AI back then as well. So I mean, for us, people who have been exposed to it, it's nothing crazy. It's just like, yeah, I mean, everyone has been working on like natural language processing forever. So it was just about time to actually release something like this. And that's why I'm saying like it's just the next progression. It's not like a quantum leap and all of a sudden. No, I don't think so. So and that's why I also don't think that it's going to just replace now everybody. And if the BuzzFeed news is correct, then well, A, BuzzFeed's terrible anyways, and B, well, they're going to get bitten in the behind, because what happens if, I know, God forbid, what happens if OpenAI is down for a few hours? You're not going to write any articles then, for example. I mean, no breaking articles. I mean, you have your articles on hold, obviously, about like random stuff, but who's going to write the breaking articles and all those things? Who's going to do like in-depth investigative journalism? And not that BuzzFeed would do that anyways, but I mean, that's then what actual writers/journalists will be doing, right? Write the actual stuff. It's like you can already create your company logo with an AI, for example. There's so many logo makers, right, online. They all look the same, though. They all look different, but you can tell, if you've been exposed a bit, you can tell which logo maker was used to create that logo. Same, like when you look at presentations, like for me, as a uni professor, if I look at presentations, I can see, oh, that's a Canva presentation, that's a PowerPoint, that's a Keynote, that's whatever. Like it's a Prezi. You can see those things, right? And if someone really creates something by themselves on their own, then it looks different. And I think that's the reason why we should not be afraid of AI. We should embrace it. I use AI as inspiration, as a guideline. I just wrote wrote some content, and I did use AI. I did use AI to say, hey, AI, can you show me a guideline or show me like a few pointers? And then I took those pointers and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's dive into that and let's critically think about those points and let's find more information on those points. So I didn't just copy paste it. That is stupid. But you just use it as an inspiration and say like, okay, yeah, cool. Saved me a little bit of time right now, so I don't have to think about the guideline or like the outline by myself. But then once I have the points, I'm going to go deep and I'm going to analyze and so on. And for that, AI is awesome. AI is also great if you're a student, for example, and you have to analyze, like, or you read something difficult, you're like, oh God, that's so many words. What does that mean? Copy it, put it into the AI, in this case OpenAI, but there are others. Put into the AI, say, hey, summarize it, make it easier to understand, and then the AI will summarize it. You always have to double check if really you think that everything that's in the original text is really also translated into easy in the new text. But things like this are awesome. So utilize AI rather than being afraid of it, rather than banning it. That's what I'm saying. You can't ban it anyways. It's going to be implemented in MS Teams. So there's no way of banning it anyways. So use it. Know how it works. Utilize it. Embrace it. Don't completely rely on it. Don't be like oblivious and be like, AI is going to do everything. I don't need to do anything, because that's also not true, of course, right? Because, and here's a secret, and then I'm going to finish because my voice is going to go in any second, but the AI is only as smart as the input you're giving it. So there are two things, right? What do you ask the AI matters? So you have to know what you want. You just say, hey, AI, write an essay. The AI is like, yeah, here, and that. But you need to say, like, what should it focus on? Like, which voice, which style, and what. So you have the input, make the input really specific. The same thing with the AI picture generators, right? Midjourney, which is my favorite. Like, I think it's even way better than DALL-E in my opinion. But then there are others, like there's. I just used an AI presentation generator that combines like DALL-E and then also the text generator. Pardon me, now you see my voice is going. So that's great. So use all those tools, but it really is only as smart as the input that you give it, and it learns from text that's out there. So if there's lots of BS text out there, the AI is going to give you BS back. Just saying. All right. Now that my voice is completely shut, let me know what you think about AI, workforce, impact on life, society, and so on. I'll do a detailed breakdown next week when my voice is better. And now I'm just going to quietly suffer on my bed, pass out, and hope my voice is going to get better. As always, thanks for joining. Like, share, subscribe, rate the podcast so we get a bigger audience. We can discuss all things AI a little bit more. Until then, stay safe, take care. Sawadee Cup.